Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. Today is episode number 146, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about pets in the shop, cordless tools, and a great response from last week's podcast on multiple tools. Today's episode is brought to you by Titebond Tools. You want a glue that you can trust, and fortunately, Titebond has the glue you need to get the job done with confidence. From interior glues with strong initial tack and short clamp time to exterior glues with exceptional strength and water resistance, look to Titebond, the right glue for your next project. For more information, visit Titebond.com. And speaking of last week's episode, we apparently touched a nerve.
We sure did.
There were a lot of comments on the YouTubes.
There's some love for ShopSmith tools. Jeez.
Right. Yeah.
I just lost respect for half the community.
No one stands up to defend Antarja.
Right.
But when it comes to ShopSmith.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve says, I'm here with Stormin123. I have 3 routers. I used to have a 4th, but gave it to a friend whose house burned down at the creek fire in our area in California. But I also have over 40 rods and reels. My wife says I can only use one at a time. Wrong. Addiction? Where are these support groups? But to justify my addiction, one of the 3 routers is in my table saw that has a built-in router insert. E.g. Blue Suede says, if space or money isn't an issue, I'd have 2 table saws, 2 band saws, 3 bench grinders, and 3 or 4 routers. Be nice to have a few set up for certain operations and maximize shop time. Now, I didn't think about having multiple shop grinders. That's
I would completely do that.
Yeah.
Because I can see that because, like, especially for you, Logan, you know, you could have one that would be kind of your like tool rehab grinder that would have like a wire wheel on one side and maybe a buffing wheel on the other.
Yep. I have 3.
Right.
So, yeah. Completely.
Stormin123 mentioned earlier says, did you guys somehow tailor this episode for me? I have a router obsession. I have 2 router tables with permanent routers, one over the table router system with router, one manual 3-axis milling system with a router, a Panto router, which I love, a Porter Cable 690 for freehand routing, a Bosch Colt kit, and a rigid cordless trim router. Is there a support group with people with too many routers? Find that having 2 router tables is convenient when I'm doing 2-bit routing such as tongue and groove or rail and style profiles. Probably could get by with less. However, I like not having to move the routers from machine to machine. By the way, I also have 2 ShopSmiths. Logan, I love my ShopSmiths. I purchased one 25 years ago and used it as a multifunction tool, which at that time was great because that is all I had for stationary tools. About 20 years ago, I purchased a used ShopSmith for sanding, drilling, and lathe work. The major drawback of the ShopSmith is the table saw having to tilt the table to do miters. However, I found workarounds for that. I also use a radial arm saw and my sliding compound miter saw for breaking down lumber on a custom bench, which houses both. My shop is 632 square feet, which might be large by some accounts. However, I live in an 1895 home in Connecticut, and the basement is not one large room.
Okay.
See, I think if you acquire like 5 ShopSmiths, they transform into and combine into one like super ShopSmith.
Right, yeah.
Shoptimus Prime.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's like the Constructicons that they would get together and form Devastators. So
It's like Shop Voltron or something.
Shop Voltron.
Lion-O. I don't know.
Oh, man.
One of those 80s cartoons.
Yep. No, that's fair. Yeah, there's quite a few comments on here. We could spend a lot of time looking at some of these.
I think the reason people obtain multiple ShopSmiths is so they can set one up for each operation.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
So,
yeah, I think the main thing about having multiple tools, like I don't remember who mentioned it, but like having 2 router tables set up for two operations. It's just really convenient, and I think a lot about woodworking is momentum, and like every time you have to stop and change a bit or blade, you kind of lose momentum, and it's a good place to stop. And it's hard to get started again. So just convenience and momentum. That's what it's all about.
That's true. Because I will say that, and this is an argument in your favor from the largesse of having working in the building where we are now, where it's like, the joiner planer is set up as a planer and I need to joint something. Mm-hmm. So I'll walk 150 feet to the main shop and joint something rather than switch it back over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, or we have a dado blade set up on the table saw in the studio here. And if I need to cut something, rather than switch out the dado blade, I'll walk back over to the main shop and cut something. Yeah. So apparently we're just that kind of lazy.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you know, so like the grinder thing isn't something I thought about, but I do have, I mean, whoever said that, I have 3 bench grinders. And there's a very real reason why. You're exactly right, Phil. One of them I have set up with a wire wheel and a buffer. Technically, that's not a bench grinder. Technically, that one was sold as a like buffer machine, but it's a bench grinder. I have one set up with my CBN wheels that I use for turning sharpening. Okay. And with CBN, you can't grind mild steel. It clogs up the grit on it. So I also have another bench grinder. This one's in my garage. It's my like, oh crap, I cut this piece of mild steel an 1/8 inch too long and I need to grind an 1/8 inch off of it. It's that bench grinder. It has the nasty wheels that, you know, are from the 1970s from my grandpa's garage and stuff.
So anyway, my dog's in here with me today. So if you hear occasional barking, that's the reason. So,
which is a great segue.
It is.
It's one of our topics.
Yes.
And I just randomly suggested this before we started because this was like one of my most controversial articles.
And yet it was also the one that you really wanted to write.
Well, okay. And the reason so the article was pets in the shop and like pet safety in the shop. Right. Because I think anybody that spends any time on social media gets pictures. Like I could go on any woodworking Facebook page today, and I could find 7 or 8 pictures of somebody with their pets in their shop that was posted within the last 24 hours. Yeah. People have their pets in the shop all the time. Right. Like shop cats, shop dogs. Anne of all trades has her shop goats and bunnies and whatever else she has, chickens. Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, it's a fun thing to have a shop companion, you know, that talks less than I do. You know what I mean? Like, so I wanted to do this article on, you know, hey, cool. Yeah, you have your pet in the shop, but there are some safety concerns for your pet, you know, such as there's wood that they shouldn't be eating. You know, their ears are more sensitive than ours. You know, what can you do to kind of make your pet more comfortable? Because they probably like hanging out with you in there. Like they want to be where you're at. So what can you do to make them a little bit more comfortable? Give them a place where they can go lay down, stay out of stuff. They're not getting into finishes. They're not getting into sawdust, whatever. Boy, and I got the emails. I never knew we had so many retired veterinarians that were subscribers. Scolded me for allowing pets in the shop. It's like, look, hey, I'm just telling people what they need to do to keep them safe. They're going to do it anyways.
Mm-hmm. So, or to be just a little more mindful of it, because I mean, pets are such a large part of people's lives that your pet accompanies you in everything, that you almost don't give it a second thought. Like in the car, yep. You know, going to friends and family, yep. Running around out in the shop, the dog or the cat's going to be out there. I mean, Nancy Hiller even wrote a book. Her last book was about the various pets and animals that she had with her shop. So,
I think a little bit might be a cultural divide too, where, you know, some people live with pets that are mainly in the house and, very spoiled. And then we have a large rural population here where there's outdoor pets, dogs, or cats that kind of, wander wherever. And we have detached machine shops and, the cats take care of the mice type thing. And they kind of just follow you, into your work area or wherever you're going and have that kind of pet and whatnot. And then another thing is I think same with children in woodworking. It's like you kind of have to decide, at what age or temperament that
what's okay.
they can be in the shop or, where, do they need to be there or is it safe or are they being supervised or, that type of thing as far as like trust wise. So yeah, there are people that are very much like, oh yeah, I have a shop pet and they can go wherever and it's safe. And some people, there's no way that they would have their cat or dog or boa constrictor in the shop with them. So
I like the people that are turners and you get the gratuitous, leaf pile of shavings. And it's usually a golden retriever that is just buried.
All you see is the face.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. That's funny. So speaking of her, does Luna ever come into the shop with you at all, or does she mainly stay in the house?
She's mainly a house dog. There's been times when I've had her out there. Because my shop's unheated, so it's usually a pretty narrow range of temperatures where she's going to feel comfortable. And I'm usually only going to do stuff, have her out there when I'm doing hand tool work. Mm-hmm. Not going to have her out there if I'm running the planer, even the bandsaw or router. Just, I don't know. That's kind of just how I draw the line with it. But I've had her out there with stuff, so.
Do those loud noises freak her out at all, or is she just kind of like doesn't really care?
I mean, she's not a big fan of the vacuum cleaner in general in the house. Okay. So, and I don't know that it's necessarily that it freaks her out. It's, I guess I'm just more concerned about it just being super loud noises.
Yeah.
And I can easily put hearing protection on. She wouldn't stand for it.
Yeah, they do. And part of my article was they do make hearing protection for dogs. Like they make doggy earmuffs.
And that was one of your dogs, right?
Yeah. So I had up until last week, I had two dogs. I had my black lab in there for that photo shoot. We put her down a couple of years ago and I just put my last one down last week. So anybody that has been to my place, which there are several listeners that have been to my place and met Cooper, he's no longer here. But he was old. But yeah, Bailey wore those just fine. Like, I don't think she didn't really enjoy them, but like if the dog was just laying there, whatever, and there goes Phil.
Yeah. I think we have a little dog too that like she would follow me around in the garage or the shop if I'm doing assembly or quiet activities, but I don't think she'd really enjoy the power tools and stuff running. So
well, and it's I say it's funny because my gun dog Bailey, the lab, I mean she's a hunting dog, so loud noises wouldn't bother her really. Cooper, oh man, that dog. If the wind blew, he was like shaking and hiding under the bed. And he's like a 90-pound retriever. Like he's huge. But nope, didn't like him. So I mean he would always like poke his head down in the shop. But as soon as like I picked up something that he thought looked suspicious, he's like, nope, done. I'm out. I'm out. Yeah. But, I was telling you guys before we started, we are picking up a couple puppies. We're picking one up next weekend. And I am looking forward to having a shop dog again. Like, I think if I could start them young and get them in there and granted, the shopping building here has an office, so they can go lay in the office and stay away from most of the noise for the most part. I think that'll be pretty nice. So stranger danger.
Yep.
Stranger danger.
Yeah, we have a camera crew in here today because we're going to be filming, and Jack made the unforgivable sin of getting up and walking around. So.
Stop existing.
Yeah. See, I would not mind having a shop cat either. I mean, not that I want a herd at my house, although getting 2 puppies at the same time sounds like I'm getting a herd. But like, I think if you, like you mentioned, John, we have a rural population. There's a lot of rural areas around here. People have outside shops, whatever. It would not be a bad thing to have a shop cat to deal with mice and such. You know what I mean? I'd just be worried about a cat trying to use a pile of sawdust as a litter box. I don't want that. No sawdust litter box. So,
yeah. Rural exterior shops are kind of like perfect homes for mice because they have their little easy to get into little, piles of wood chips and dust for nests, and usually they're warm and protected. So, perfect little mice havens. Yeah. I think we even get them here in our city shop.
Oh yeah. It's funny watching Mark try to chase him down because it's like the movie Mousetrap. Like he has everything set up and can't get him.
Yep.
But yeah.
So your dog John doesn't go out in the shop very often, huh?
No, she's a little bit more skittish and around loud noises and stuff, so she'll follow me outside, but she'd prefer to be away from the noises.
Yeah.
So, and I always hear about people that like break their ankles because of like tripping over a dog. And I always said it was like it would be our dog because she's like always like kind of just quietly underfoot, and so just stay out of the way. She'd prefer to just be curled up on the top of the couch.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's how my dog is. She would rather be able to bark at the Amazon car or truck driving down the street or FedEx or something like that than. Although, like when I'm cooking in the evening, she'll kind of lay down right in the entryway to the kitchen where she's perfect for, carrying hot bowls and pans out to the table and being like right in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's her superpower. I want to thank Tight Bond for their sponsorship of this episode. You want a glue that you can trust, and fortunately, Tight Bond has the glue you need to get the job done with confidence. From interior glues with strong initial tack and short clamp time, to exterior glues with exceptional strength and water resistance, look to Tight Bond, the right glue for your next project. For more information, visit tightbond.com.
Yeah, I have a friend that I here in town that I'll go turn with on the weekends and stuff. And Greg has a Great Dane, Mira, and that dog's not getting underfoot. She's she's pushing you out of the way. I mean, she's. I don't remember what Greg said, but she's close to 200 pounds. Like she's huge. Like she's 190 pounds. She's massive. And she
Which is a compliment, by the way.
I mean, yeah, she's thick. You know what I mean?
THICC.
Yeah, that's right.
In a good way. Healthy. Looking healthy.
But she likes to grab like chunks of wood, and that's always been my concern of like having a dog in the shop because Cooper, when he was little, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, he used to eat wood chips. Like he would just grab a wood chip like out of the dog park and eat it. And Mira likes to grab hunks of wood. So like, if we're like cutting bowl blanks, like you'll throw the corners off and she'll just grab them and she'll take them to her bed and start chewing on them. And like, that's fine and dandy until like she starts eating them. Like chewing on it is different than eating it.
Right.
But then, and this is more of a training thing, I think. Then she thinks that a finished piece is a chew toy. And I think the closest that dog ever got to being murdered was Greg had turned this like a really nice like kind of like a cigar bowl ashtray
Okay.
out of like some weird Australian burl. Like I'm sure it was like way more money than it should have been. And like he spent like 4 nights working on this thing, got it all finished up, looked great, and then the dog got a hold of it. Like literally the next day. It's like, oh
Perfect.
no. So that's always my concern with having a dog in the shop is they're gonna get a hold of something they shouldn't. So get a hold of a bottle of Tight Bond glue or hide glue or something.
I remember shortly after I started at Woodsmith, when the big Gorilla Glue kickoff was with polyurethane glue, and then shortly after that, you'd start hearing horror stories of people gluing their fingers together or whatever, and then one was a dog that had licked up a bunch of Gorilla Glue because it just something about the smell of it, and they ended up having to remove like a football-sized block of foam out of a dog's stomach. So, yeah, so you kind of got to watch it a little bit. And plus, with my shop being in the garage, I just don't want, if I'm working on something and not knowing where the dog is, getting something, tangled up in kids' toys or.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, just getting filthy in, just garage grime. And I love my dog, but I do not love bathing her often or unnecessarily. So yeah, we got a lot of comments on that one. It was pretty funny. It was kind of interesting because there were a lot of people that had shop animals and still were kind of aghast that we would do that article, which I thought was curious.
Yeah.
We're like, we have them. We just don't talk about it.
Right.
Don't be telling everybody.
It's like those people that have shopsmiths.
Yeah. So that's my discussion question for listeners and viewers. Do you have a shop pet? A, what is it? And 2, what do you do to, like how much time do you have it out in the shop with you? And what are you doing or not doing that you would keep it in the house for? So tell us your shop pet stories. And if you have some pet that's super unusual, that's even better.
Yeah, I think the oddest one I've seen is there's one guy that has pictures of goats in his shop all the time. Not like I live in the country and I have a picturesque barn and I have doors open and the goats just wander in. Right. It's like he has a garage and there's goats in it with him.
Yeah. Okay.
Ann Briggs has bunnies.
Right, and she has donkeys and whatever that'll
stick their heads in,
stuff like that. I'm looking for somebody South Florida, like an iguana,
shop gator.
I think the logical thing would be like a shop hamster or shop guinea pig, right?
Right,
like with all the sawdust.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
I
could see that.
It's symbiosis.
Yeah. I'm just confused where they find that much shop sawdust in the wild.
Yeah,
right.
And maybe it's regional. Are there are you more likely to have a shop cat in this part of the country and the shop dogs in this part of the country?
I have to assume that cats would be more prevalent in like farm country, right?
I don't know, because I think
Midwest?
of like a farm dog, like my grandparents would have, a farm dog that was, 50% motion detector, and then kind of keep animals away and stuff. But
yeah, I was just thinking like going back to John's rural, like people out with their shops,
right.
Although to be fair, a lot around us, a lot of those outdoor shops are like they're like metal shops. It's like, oh crap,
Right.
combine's broke, pull it in,
Right.
hack it apart, weld it back together.
Yeah. But still, I mean, you probably would have more barn cats than you would have farmyard dogs. So,
Yeah. They run in gangs.
yep. So if South Florida has shop iguanas, what would like the Pacific Northwest have then?
Shop bears,
Shop
Moose?
bears, marmots.
caribou. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
They probably drink
That's a-
coffee though, whatever it is.
Yeah. They're probably
Beaver,
hipster too.
maybe.
Yeah, shop beaver.
Northwest. Yeah.
We'll find somebody that's a shop raccoon. Like an intentional
Yeah.
an intentional
Yes.
shop
Potential-
raccoon.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
They're out there.
That's the other thing. It has to be for a legitimate shop pet. It has to be invited or welcome or intentional. Yes.
I don't know if I ever said this on the podcast. I was cleaning my shop downstairs one day, and I was sweeping out from underneath my bench because I have one of those stupid benches that stuff can get underneath it. And I look under there, and I'm like, there is fur. Why is there fur under my bench? And I'm like, I'm going to have to reach in there and see what it is. So I reach in there and grab it, and it was a chunk of raccoon fur from, like, it was like a tanned raccoon I had. Like, I don't remember what it was. Must have been, like, right after trapping season or something. And I had a tanned raccoon hide, and somehow a chunk of that fur had got pushed under my. It scared the crap out of me. So I'm like, this is in my basement. What is living under my bench? Just a chunk of raccoon fur.
It's better than finding it in your like table saw
That's true.
casing
Yeah.
and the motor.
Yeah.
It's like, where did that fur come from?
Well, and anybody that's in crop country's probably seen pictures of raccoons that get in combines. We call those raccoon jelly.
Yeah.
Yum.
What do you have for updates for this week? Anything new? You sent out, Logan, photos of having ceiling up in your shop.
I do. I don't have it all up yet. I think maybe this evening I have a buddy that's going to come over. We're going to help. We're going to put some up. Yeah. Shop's insulated. Got my radiant actually working. I said I wasn't going to mention the radiant not working because Nelson was going to give me crap for it.
Because you did it yourself.
I already messaged him and was like, dude, I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to say it. I had issues with my radiant, the in-floor heat. Not necessarily because of the DIY kit, but because this is unusual for me. Usually I will research something to the ends of the earth before I do anything about it. Like, I just am that type of person. I'm hyper fixated on stuff. I didn't when I did this in-floor heat. I don't know why. The manifold they sent was simply ball valves. So you have loops that go in to the floor, spins around, it comes back out. So you have one entry, one exit for each loop. I have 5 loops. One zone, so they're all on or they're all off, but 5 loops. And the flow would be controlled with those ball valves. Well, most manufacturers of radiant floor systems, meaning the panels and the boilers, suggest a certain flow rate through each loop. And then if you need more heat, you increase the flow rate. If you need less heat in that loop, you decrease the flow rate. So I got my boiler system, my panel all set up, and I was having problems with it. Like, the water was going in the floor hot, it's coming out really cold, and I was just trying to keep the floor warm a little bit because you would walk in there when it was 50 degrees out, and that concrete was like 20 degrees, and it was colder in the building than it was outside the building. So I was just trying to get a little bit of heat going through there to get the concrete up to like ambient air temperature. I had a small problem with the boiler. The manufacturer sent me a replacement part for the boiler, and that fixed that issue. But I was not able to control the flow through these loops like I wanted. So I ended up actually ordering another manifold, cutting the one that I already put on off, putting the new manifold on it, which has flow meters, and now everything's working fantastically. It is cycling as it should. It is working flawlessly. So a little bit of growing pains, but it was worth it. But yeah, we started putting ceiling up after the concrete got warm. It was warm enough in there to get ceiling up. I was really debating on whether to do drywall or a steel ceiling. I was worried about a steel ceiling sounding a little tinny or echoey if I'm trying to film video in there. However, I found they manufacture acoustic steel. So it is ribbed steel panels that are perforated, so the sound waves could travel through it. And it actually has a better sound rating than drywall. So I went that route because it was actually cheaper to go with acoustic steel than it was for me to put 2x4s across the entire ceiling and then pay somebody to hang drywall and mud and tape it. So we got most of the ceiling put up. I have 8 pieces of steel left to put up. It's very odd because you can't see through the steel. I mean, it's perforated, but you can't see through it until I flip the lights on in the other half of the building, and then you can see through it, and it's like this weird, like, sheer curtain look up there, I think. But once I, blow insulation in, I think it'll be fine. So yeah, marching away slowly. I am pulling for a mid-April move-in date for all the shop stuff, so we'll see. I got lights. Lights showed up this week, so that'll be interesting. I'm gonna do an article on shop lighting because I bought the lights from a company called American Green Lights, and they specialize in designing lights for your space. So, like, I sent them a shop layout, and he ran computer simulations on what the lighting and what the shadows would do in the shop with different light setups. And then he gave me a suggestion on the lights, and I ordered them from him. They were a little bit more expensive from them, but I'm like, you know what? I mean, they went through the effort of giving me this simulation. So those showed up, so those have to get installed too. So we're marching away. We're marching. It's slow.
Are those like all
sloppy.
like LED, like fluorescent tube light type things, but LED?
They're actually, they look like a fluorescent fixture, like a what are they, T8 fixture where they have the big bulbs that snap in, but there's no bulb and no bulb holder. Instead, they are strips of like adhesive back LEDs. So each 4-foot long fixture has the reflector still, and then it has 5 or 6 strips of lights in there. And I needed a little bit higher wattage ones because my ceilings are so high. I mean, they're 14-foot ceilings, so I need a little bit more power. And I think I got,
not to brag or anything.
No, I mean, not. I mean, yeah, it's not.
The ceilings are so high.
They're so high. So I think I got 12 or 14 lights for the area. And actually, Jim at American Green Lights, he gave me suggestions for lights for the office and the bathroom as well. But I'm just gonna put can lights in there. Yeah. I mean, not like cans, but like LED pucks, because I'm like, I don't really care about the color of light in there, or I guess the bigger thing is like, and this is part of what I want to talk about when I get this article put together is lighting has what's called the CRI value. It's color retention index. And it's how true color looks with that light. Like if anybody's ever taken, I discovered this when I was in the print industry. Like if you take a printed magazine and look at it under fluorescent lights and then take it outside, the colors look completely different. And a higher CRI value gives you that truer color look. So, I mean, most people don't necessarily think about that in the shop. They think about, what is it? Is it a 5K light? Is it a 3K light? Or what color is the light? But that color of the light can also change the color that you're looking at. So if somebody's trying to match stain, in their shop that has poor CRI value lights, they won't be able to match it. You know, you need a higher CRI value. So I think that's where a lot of the price on these lights came in, is that they are a high CRI value. And they, you know, color should appear really true in there. So it'll be interesting. It'll be cool. And I didn't realize that. So the ambient light, like where Phil's at right now, you know, might be, they measure ambient lighting in like foot candles. So it's a measure of how much light is in the area. And a workshop, like a woodworking shop, should have 2 to 3 times the amount of foot candles as an office space, which is kind of interesting to me. I didn't know that. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot talking to Jim on the phone for like 45 minutes. So it was pretty cool.
All right, John, you got anything?
Still trying to finish up the little compact router table. Been working on it. I don't remember if I mentioned it last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever that was, but like I mentioned before, it's all about momentum. I think one Friday I was working on it and doing really well, and I got a call from the school that I had to pick up a sick kid and really, you know, stop the momentum. Mm-hmm. So I got to get back onto it, but I'm pretty close on it. So,
all right.
Which is it's always hardest to finish the last little bit.
Yeah.
It feels like. So, but we'll get there.
Yeah. I feel the same way about a couple of my video projects. I got one where want to do a leather writing surface, and it's on it's got a fake drawer that drops down and then pulls out. I'm like, do I do the leather before I put the hinges on, or hinges and then put the leather over the top of it? Where am I going to get the leather? How thick? And then it's like, I don't want to deal with this right now, so I will do something else. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you, leather's not cheap either.
I know.
Like, I mean, if you go into, like, we have Tandy. Tandy's a pretty big chain, so I think most people have a Tandy somewhere close to them. And you can walk in and they have like ostrich leather, they have, you know, pig leather, they have a bunch of stuff. It's expensive. Like, I have a couple of rolls that I keep. It's probably actually on my desk behind Phil.
Yes, it is.
That I bought like 3 years ago on Black Friday, because it's like, oh, it's not $250 per side. It's like $150 per side. So I just bought them. No plans for them.
Right.
But it's like, oh, it was a good sale price. So, yeah, it's expensive. You could do, I will say, the poker table I built a couple years ago, I used a vinyl leather. Some might call it a pleather. And it was pretty good.
Oh, yeah?
That might be a good option. I think most, like, fabric stores have it.
Okay.
Vegan leather.
Vegan leather.
Yeah. They have to skin a lot of zucchini to get enough to make it.
Right. Skin of a naga.
Mm-hmm. Luna hated that joke.
Yeah, she did. Man.
Our 2 camera guys are here, and she's not sure about them.
I'm not.
I mean, they are kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Is it worse to try to do a podcast with a kid or with a barking dog?
Right? Yeah. So.
This is real life, folk.
Yep. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks to Type Bond Glue. I've been woodworking for a long time, and the glue that I've used the entire time has been a Type Bond glue. Started with the original and graduated to Type Bond 2 when I needed to do something outdoors. Now, for me, it's all about their liquid hide glue and Type Bond 3, though I've recently added their speed set to it. So we love it around here, and I think you would too. Check out their site, typebond.com. If you have any questions, comments, or random barking, we want to hear about it. You can send us an email, woodsmith@woodsmith.com. Oh, also want to give a shout out for the free plan that goes with today's episode. In an upcoming issue of Woodsmith or ShopNotes, one of the two, we're doing a new crosscut sled, specially built for long pieces as well as miters. But if you're looking for an essential table saw sled, check out the plan that goes with this episode. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, everybody, on the Shop Notes Podcast. Bye.